Hi, this is Kelly Erickson, and I'm a student in the Masters of Education, Learning Design and Technology program at St. Mary's University of Minnesota, and I am also a middle school social studies teacher at Chaska Middle School West in Chaska, Minnesota, where I currently teach 7th grade civics and 8th grade modern global studies. This video is about my story of working to incorporate more authentic learning opportunities for students that allow them to connect their learning to their lives outside the classroom and examine real-world issues. My motivation for pursuing this topic was from conversations with colleagues and friends in the workplace who have noticed a disconnect between what students do within a classroom differing from what they are expected to do and know when they graduate from high school, whether that be to further their education or find a job. I was curious about ways in which to incorporate learning experiences that connect students with real-world situations or tasks in order to prepare them to contribute to society and the economy. This led me to my design thinking question: how might we incorporate real-life or simulated tasks and lessons to provide learners with opportunities to connect with real-world issues? I used the design thinking process to address my challenge first by examining the core problem's causes and effects, seen on the left, through a problem tree analysis. After that, I focused on the stakeholders in order to create solutions that best fit their needs, which are mainly my students in their learning, myself, and as you can see, my administration, colleagues, parents and guardians, future society, and the community itself. From there, I began gathering my initial qualitative data by first creating an extensive plan for who to connect with for my design thinking challenge, and then following through with this plan by setting up interviews in person, by emailing and sending out 2 Google surveys, one to my students and one to the teachers at my school. I did run into a few challenges when trying to implement my plan because of several snow days in which I needed to instead switch to the Google survey with my staff members, as well as having people I wanted to interview via phone, which worked better out by having them email, and then that had less pressure and it was better able to document their answers. From the qualitative data, I found that authentic learning experiences engage students by giving them relevant, real-world topics to examine, and that learners need to be explicitly taught practical skills that they will use throughout their lives, such as communication, organization, advocacy, and collaboration. I also found that authentic learning helps students make connections, and that learners need to be able to collaborate with others. There are also several barriers that I heard from, especially from different colleagues. And these were that you need to overcome things such as time, lack of resources, training, funding, constraints of the traditional school setting, lack of professional development, the curriculum demands, and the simple risk of letting go of what is comfortable as an educator in order to be able to pursue authentic learning. And it is also a process in which you need to go with the flow. While I continue to gather this raw qualitative data, I was also exploring a variety of research articles, educational books, videos, and blogs in order to get a broader perspective of my challenge. The academic research I gathered for this design challenge was organized into a synthesis matrix in order to better organize and then analyze the common concepts, subconcepts, and themes found throughout them. This was then made into a voice deck presentation, and I've included the link to this on the top left of the screen. The first main concept that emerged from my academic research was collaboration, with the subconcepts of having a broad audience, technology, and authenticity. And these help to strengthen student engagement, increase participation, nurture productivity, develop empathy for others' perspectives, and help students prepare for collaborative environments that they may find in the workplace and throughout their lives. The next concept that emerged was the role of assessment. And the subconcepts for this were authentic to real-world situations, application of skills, and self-reflection and assessment, which allows students to measure their progress towards goals and apply their learning to real-world situations. Another concept was engagement with the subconcepts of ownership, learner voice and choice, relevancy, and the nurturing of a positive learning environment, which is shown to increase attention, motivation, and promote meaningful learning experiences. The next main concept was instruction for learning, with the subconcepts of scaffolding, teacher training, and feedback, which can be used in ways to make learning easier, more enjoyable, and personalized to each individual. The last main concept was connections to learning, with the subconcepts of connecting beyond the classroom, building personal connections, skill development, and strengthening communication, which can have a profound positive impact on student learning outcomes and lead to lifelong learning. The analysis of the academic research, in combination with the qualitative data gathered from a variety of stakeholders, helped to shape the design principles for my design thinking challenge. In order to understand and reflect on how the qualitative data and academic research fit into my design challenge, I used a 4-column template as seen on the screen to show the data on the far left gathered from different stakeholders. And these were then highlighted as patterns using the data and the research articles and blogs and other resources. These two were then used to rate insights from those patterns in relation to my design challenge. And finally, these insights were used to help create my design principles. One challenge I did come up with was that I was finding more design principles that were very similar and needed to go out throughout and change them and combine them with one another. The design principles for my challenge include that the solution must provide a collaborative learning environment with opportunities for students to work with peers, in addition for them to be able to work with outside resources, that it allows students voice and choice in the learning activities, allows students to examine real-world problems, include the purpose and the why of learning, provide activities to practice 21st century skills, build upon students' prior knowledge, and make connections to their lives and other content areas, find ways to use technology to get beyond the constraints of time and place, and incorporate feedback and reflection to make improvements. These design principles were then used to brainstorm potential solutions to my design challenge, including on the top left solution number 1, Genius/Interest project. Solution number 2, as described, including Skype or Google Hangout sessions for different units. Solution number 3, having a community service project as a whole class instead of as individuals. And then finally, the small business project as solution number 4. I also really liked the quote I added on the bottom: if student school experiences is filled with rote work and lacks any real-world connections, how can we expect them to seamlessly transfer learning to real-life application? The small business project was, after rating the different projects, the small business project best fit the different principles, and this was the solution I decided to pursue further. I especially like this one because I was able to implement the solution before the master's program was completed. The small business project incorporates all the design principles by having small business guest speakers, and I was able to have 4 different individuals come and talk to my classes, and also someone via Skype. It has the students examine a real-world issue by having them create a small business that fulfills a want or need in their local community, in this case being in Eastern Carver County. It gave them the opportunity to collaborate with each other and with outside resources. They were able to use technology to research the costs, the location, advertising, and even their presentation method. It has a purpose for the project, and they understood the why. It allowed students to make more choices, or many different choices, and have their voice heard. It also incorporated check-ins to provide feedback from peers and the teacher before presenting their final small business. And they were able to complete a Google form reflection and self-assessment of their learning at the end of the project. There were many deliverables or parts to this solution that needed to be created or modified from past years, including a Google slide presentation, a rubric, student direction packet, a timeline, and a Google form survey for the students to self-assess and reflect on their learning. Before these deliverables were given to my students, my main stakeholders, I was first able to share them with 3 other middle school civics teachers in my school district in order to gain their feedback on how to make improvements. With the feedback I obtained from them, I was able to make a few changes to the slideshow to make it more student-friendly, the rubric to add more of the economic concepts, and the packet to clarify a few of the directions more clearly. It was exciting to include my students in this whole design thinking challenge process because they are my main stakeholders and the ones who benefit the most by incorporating more authentic learning experiences. Throughout this process, they have provided me with verbal and written and Google survey feedback, as well as just one-to-one questioning them throughout it. This has helped me to make improvements and make modifications and keep them as the focus for all the solutions for my small business and other ideas that I came up with. I plan to use this small business project solution as a template to revise other projects to match the design principles and allow students to connect more with real-world issues related to civics and modern global studies while providing them with a more authentic resources and/or audience. As you can see, I have also identified additional projects that I could use these design principles for, including a class community service project, history day projects, travel budget projects, a civics interest project at the end of the school year, a Monsoon Asia Country Spotlight project, which my Modern Global Studies students will be beginning very soon, and a Africa Country travel project. I am excited to share that I've been invited to share my work that I've been doing on authentic learning at Eastern Carver County's Summer Academy, and look forward to helping other educators develop authentic learning experiences for their students. Throughout this design thinking process, I have taken the time to consider multiple perspectives and question assumptions throughout the academic research and qualitative data collection. I have had the opportunity to collaborate with others to consider new perspectives, including my instructors, my critical friend group, colleagues, especially my students and friends outside the field of education. I have thought critically and creatively to create a variety of solutions to my design thinking challenge that keep my stakeholders as the focus, my students, and empathize with their needs and wants based on the feedback and to create the design principles. I have also been fortunate to be able to test out one of my solutions with 2 different stakeholder groups, the 7th grade civics teachers and my 7th grade students themselves, and this has helped me to reflect on the outcomes and its potential for future learning. With the continued support of colleagues, administration, parents, and community members, this project and others that follow the design principles could really help students connect their learning to the world around them and help them realize that they can be part of the solution to many different challenges that face our country and world today and into the future. A huge thank you to my colleagues who have provided support, suggestions, feedback, and encouragement, to my students who provided feedback, suggestions, and inspiration for the design challenge. Thank you for listening, and if you'd like to learn more, please check out my blog at MLDT